47-year-old mother of two Melissa Sloan claims that her tattoo addiction has led her to a point where she can't get a job anymore. And particularly, Melissa's face tattoos are what's hindering her employment, as she has almost her entire face covered. So we're gonna get into Melissa's story today and her prospects for employment, but we're also gonna talk about Mark Cropp, who back in 2017 found himself unable to get a job when he was released from prison with this huge tattoo across his entire face. So Melissa Sloan, like I said, is a mother of two, and she's from Wales. And Melissa initially went viral back in 2022 when she talked about her tattoo addiction. In an interview with the Daily Star, Melissa said, quote, "It's like when you have a cigarette or a drink, you get addicted. I can't stop now. It's addictive, for me anyway, I just can't stop." Melissa went on to explain that she gets 3 new tattoos per week, often putting tattoos on top of existing tattoos because she has no more room on her body. Melissa said her and her boyfriend do their tattoos prison style and carry around a tattoo machine in their car with them so that they can tattoo themselves anywhere they'd like. And I'm assuming prison style just means that they're doing whatever tattoos they want outside of a tattoo studio. I don't think that they're constructing a prison style tattoo machine and using that. But because of Melissa's tattoo addiction, this has led her to some really negative experiences in her life. Aside from really struggling to get a job, Melissa also was banned from attending her own children's school plays because of how she looks. But I really don't think we can discount the addictive nature of tattoos. Melissa said herself, quote, "I get adrenaline from it. I get a buzz and I feel brilliant. Then it wears off again in a couple of days' time and I do it again." And this is a valid point and an experience I think a lot of people can relate to. When you get tattooed, endorphins and adrenaline are released. And those are things your body craves. And I'm sure we've all heard that once you start getting tattoos, it's hard to stop. Once you have like that ball rolling, it keeps going and going. And for people like Melissa, it seemingly never stops. And Melissa said due to the way she looks, people assume that she's never even had a job in her life. But Melissa said this isn't the case. She had a job cleaning, but it didn't last very long. And now Melissa has applied so many different places to get a job, even cleaning toilets, and no one will hire her. This is something tattooed people hear all the time, especially from family members who are trying to urge you against getting tattooed. They say, don't get tattoos because you might not be able to get a job one day. A part of that is true, but it's almost so much of a cliche now that younger people tend to just ignore this entirely. And to be fair, this definitely was the case 10, 20 years ago, that you probably could not get a job with visible tattoos. And nowadays, obviously this is changing, but there still are circumstances where tattooed people can't get a job. Spidey on TikTok says, "Me talking to my friend who's wondering why he can't get a job with tattoos all over his head." Max Wright says, "Getting rejected from a job because of your tattoos." Brooklyn says, "Update, I didn't get the job because of my hand tat." And this isn't always the case, as there are doctors and lawyers and people in the tech industry who have high-paying jobs and they also have visible tattoos.
No, not at all. I've had this hand tattoo since long before I was in the tech industry. It's never been a problem. I have many other visible tattoos when I'm not covered up. And most of my career has been in academia, which is more conservative than just the standard engineering industry. In fact, the last long-term contract that I had, just to give you a perspective on how much my appearance doesn't matter, I was sent to the Middle East to work on a contract for the government. Visible tattoos, piercings, and all.
Clearly, tattoos are somewhat more accepted, but when you're as heavily covered, especially on your face, there's still that judgment against you. And you can see this a lot from the comments that Melissa gets online. In Facebook posts, people say, "You need the love of Jesus, not tattoos, honey." Some people will do anything just to be seen. And someone on TikTok commented on one of Melissa's videos saying that they hope the tattoos wash off. And that's definitely not gonna work. Before we move forward, I just wanted to say that I've really been trying to learn how to paint my own flash pieces. And because of the sponsor of today's video, Skillshare, I was able to find this learning path that teaches you how to master watercolor painting. I'm most excited for this first class that's Master Masking Fluid in Watercolor Painting, and it's a 10-day art challenge taught by Mar Nguyen. Learning paths on Skillshare are available in a range of experience levels from beginner to advanced, and a variety of categories including design, productivity, creative freelancing, tools, and software like Procreate and Blender, marketing, and more. Skillshare is such an incredible sponsor of my channel, and I'm just obsessed with their platform that makes it really easy to pick up a new hobby or even start a new career path. Skillshare is the largest online learning community for creatives with thousands of classes led by industry pros across film, illustration, design, painting, crafting, music, and beyond. This new year, invest in yourself and start a learning path on Skillshare to take your creative passion or project to the next level. So if you're interested in everything that Skillshare has to offer, the first 500 people to click my link in the description box down below will get a free trial to Skillshare for 1 month. So start today and join Skillshare's community of creative and curious people learning new things and skills in their lives. Thank you so much to the sponsor of today's video, Skillshare. Now back to the video. A lot of people look at Melissa and they consider all of the negative impacts her tattoos have had on her life, and they think, why would she choose to do that in the first place? And Melissa is really open about why she started getting covered in tattoos. According to the New York Post, Melissa says that she started getting tattoos as a way to cope with the alleged abuse that she experienced as a young child. Melissa alleges that this was done to her by her older stepbrother, Gavin Sloan, who has recently been imprisoned for assault and acts against children. Melissa said her tattoos help her cover up the emotional scar that Gavin allegedly left behind. Melissa went on to say, quote, "They're my mask and I hide from the world behind them. But now that he is finally in jail, I can begin to feel free." I'm really happy that Melissa is able to feel a sense of relief now that her older stepbrother is in prison. I don't know if Melissa has any plans on getting the tattoos removed now that she has this sense of relief, and maybe she doesn't feel like she needs to hide behind her tattoos anymore. But Melissa has been covering up her tattoos with makeup pretty frequently online lately, and she's been getting a lot of positive reinforcement from these pictures of her face tattoos covered. So moving on, we're going to talk now about Mark Cropp, whose face tattoo has also led him into a lot of difficulty finding a job. Back in 2017, this article was written about Mark. Man with devastating face tattoo says that he can't find work. And when this was released, Mark was just 19 years old. He was a young father and he had just gotten out of jail. Mark is from New Zealand and he was in jail for 2 years because of an aggravated robbery charge. And while he was in jail, he and his cellmate were drinking one night, and apparently his cellmate gave him this tattoo. And now apparently this was supposed to be a small tattoo that just went across his jawline, but the two had been drinking so much that it ended up in what's on his face currently, which is very, very large. And in an interview with the New Zealand Herald, Mark said, quote, "I am regretting it. I was going through a rough patch." And Mark said that it's a part of jail life that if you see someone with a tattoo, then you want to stay away from them. And there's a connotation that you're like a tough guy and people wouldn't want to mess with you if you have a really big, scary tattoo on your face. So clearly Mark was feeling a lot of pressure and he ended up with this huge tattoo that's causing him a lot of problems now that he's out of jail. According to Mark, places that he's applied for jobs have explicitly told him that they won't hire him with that tattoo on his face. And Mark says that he'll get laughed at and stared at in public because of it. After being faced with so many rejections, Mark took his frustrations to Facebook and he posted this. "Hey, I'm keen as to work, but have one thing that's stopping me, and that's the tattoo on my face. I don't have a CV as of yet. I'm 19 years of age and have my learner's license. Keen as on job or workplace that will take me on." And this Facebook post ended up getting really, really popular. So much so that a laser clinic in Auckland reached out to Mark, offering him free laser tattoo removal as well as free transportation to get to the clinic. Mark did accept this offer and is working on removing this tattoo from his face, but also because of the Facebook post, he got some job offers. And Mark, luckily, was able to get a job. Mark now works for a scaffolding company. He's working on his face tattoo removal, and he reportedly gets paid $22 an hour, which is great considering Mark has a young child to support. So I think this brings up an interesting discussion on if employers should be able to deny someone the ability to be hired because of their tattoos. In fact, back in 2022, a new bill was introduced in New York City that would ban discrimination against people who have tattoos, both in the workplace and in renting a home. According to Councilman Sean Abreu, who's a co-sponsor of this bill, quote, "We should be focused on merit-based work. Can you do the jobs? If the answer is you can do the job, what does it matter if you have a tattoo?" And if enacted, this would add tattoos in the list of what are considered protective characteristics under the human rights law. And some people aren't happy with the fact that this may be put on the human rights bill because tattoos are a choice. You're not born with them. And also there's the case of people having hate symbols tattooed. Are you supposed to be able to hire someone with a hate symbol on their face? I could see why an employer would not want that to represent their company. The bill just was proposed, it has not been enacted. It's just something that's up for discussion in New York City, but there are some places where certain tattoos are protected. TikTok user 2_Edmonds has a traditional Maori face tattoo, and he talks about how the New Zealand Human Rights Act does protect these kinds of tattoos.
Alright, so if you've been scrolling TikTok and you've seen my face and your first thought is, God damn, that dude is never gonna get a job again. Well, I'm here to educate you otherwise. Alright, so down here in our beautiful little country of Aotearoa, New Zealand, we have a thing called the Human Rights Act. And the Human Rights Act was created to ensure that people are not treated unequally or unfairly due to things like their sex, religious beliefs, color, race, etc. Now there's a section in the Human Rights Act that is about ethnic or national origins, and this is where moko comes into play. So the New Zealand Human Rights Commission says that because certain traditional markings are so closely related and associated with a certain ethnic group, in this case moko for Māori, that it would be considered discriminatory to deny them employment because of their markings.
And now obviously Mark and Melissa's tattoos are very different from this experience. Mark and Melissa just went and tattooed their faces because that's what they wanted to do at the time. They don't have any sort of cultural roots of getting face tattoos. I think it's great that New Zealand has laws that do protect Indigenous tattoos like this, but I'm not sure that we need laws in order to protect just any old tattoo you decide to get on your face or other visible part of your body. Something I don't think we can ignore is that Mark and Melissa have an inherent amount of privilege because they're white people. According to the Pew Research Center, the highest percentage of Americans who are tattooed in terms of race and ethnicity are Black Americans, with 39% of the population tattooed. And these people are already being discriminated against because of the color of their skin. So I'm not sure that putting tattoos in with the human rights law in the United States when it's just your average non-Indigenous tattoo, I don't know that lumping that in with sexual orientation, race, gender, discrimination really makes sense. I do understand putting that clause in for Indigenous tattoos. I think that's a great thing. But just for your average, everyday face tattoo that someone went out and paid for, I don't know that you should be, by law, able to not hire them. But with that, I would love to know what you think about jobs denying people with visible tattoos, especially face tattoos. Do you think there should be a law enacted that you are discriminating if you don't hire someone with face tattoos? Let me know in the comments down below. And thanks again to today's sponsor, Skillshare. They really have been supporting my channel for a long time, and I love their platform. So check out the link in my description box if you would like to explore everything that Skillshare has to offer. But if you've made it to the end of this video, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. If you have, leave me this emoji in the comments so I know that you are a real one. Bye everyone.